This is the Mobile Tech Podcast, brought to you by worldpodcasts.com. Now here's your host, Tech Girl, Miriam Joie.
Brought to you by Mint Mobile. Stay tuned for a special offer at the end of the show. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Joie, and today is Thursday, July 30th, 2026. I've got the excellent Will Saddleberg here from 9 to 5 Google. Hi, Will. How's it going?
Hi, Miriam. It's going good. Yeah, I think this is my first time on as a 9 to 5 Googler.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Seems correct to me. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. It's been, I think we just passed a year, and I feel like it's been a whirlwind year, but it's a lot of, I don't know, it's really fun being part of like a small, tight-knit gang. Again,
I love that gang.
Blogging,
me and Seth go way back.
Oh, yeah.
And, everything like electric as well. Everybody in that entire, universe of 9 to 5 is amazing. And I think it's a great fit. I'm really glad. It seems like it's been way longer than a year, to be honest.
I know. To me too. Like, it's one of those things where I keep having to remind myself that, like, I've only done one CES with these guys, for example, and that kind of stuff. Like, it feels like it has, and maybe that's partially because I feel like every time you see me at events, I was hanging out with Ben anyway. But
guys.
it just, I know. I
just saw Ben in London last week. Speaking of, topics here. So look, we've kind of murdered Samsung to death last week with Michael Fisher on my show. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I
didn't realize I'm following up Fisher. I didn't even catch that.
I know.
Right, well, we gotta reschedule.
Yeah, that's it. You're done, right? No, look, the thing is, we were very unhinged because we were very tired, and we had a lot of opinions and thoughts. And I think that's what I mean by we did not. If anything, Michael was very positive about a lot of stuff. I was about some. I had some reservations. It's been a week. That's why I want to talk a little more, kind of recap a little bit. You did a recap article at the time, I think, about what the changes are. We were very philosophical in our, podcast last week, whereas I think I want to be a little more practical. And more importantly, there are starting to get some reviews. I don't want to focus too much on the Z Fold8 Ultra, which is the phone I have, for the Patreons who are watching on video. I've got it in a crazy UAG case here that has a magnet. It's way too thick and ugly, but UAG sends me cases all the time, and thanks for that. So, I've been using this. It's exactly what you expect. It's an upgrade to the Z Fold 7 with a slightly better battery life and a slightly better ultra wide. It's not really, I think, the interesting phone. The interesting phone, Z Fold8, I don't have one still. I'm still trying to get one from Samsung. Yeah. They're dragging their feet as always. So stay put for that. And so once I have my own thoughts after a week. But we've got reviews. Dom of The Verge, I saw him in London. He's an awesome guy. He's been on the show. I think his review really nails what my impression was, using it for 2 hours, an hour, whatever, during the hands-on, which I published on Hot Hardware last week. And then, since then, you've probably read some other thoughts. You've had Ben's probably given you some thoughts on, on your various conversations. So what's your take? Like, what do you think of this phone?
Well, yeah. And so right off the jump, right? Like, let me say, I also don't have one. I was not at the event. Ben was. I have edited Ben's review, which is not up on the site yet, but might be by the time
Sunday,
you're listening to this.
Have it up.
Yeah. So I believe this will be up. And I read through it this morning. So I can tell you Ben's thoughts are very similar to Dom's. I think the line that he's really proud of is that this is sort of the foldable shape made for everyone else that the traditional 1x1-ish screen did not fit for, right? Like, it is a little bit more geared towards multimedia consumption, whether it is videos, even though it's not quite that much of a larger actual piece of real estate when you're watching a video, it does feel a little bit better to just open it up and have the video ready to go, as opposed to having to rotate and have the cutout right there if you're trying to zoom in or whatever. It's not so much the like multitasking beast maybe that the now renamed Fold8 Ultra can be from time to time with its aspect ratio, but this is essentially like an iPad mini that you're putting in your pocket. It's the screen size is essentially the same aspect ratio and not that much smaller than an iPad mini, and so what you end up with is an experience that feels much more like the tablet experience you're already used to, as opposed to that
a 1x1
square, which felt really, and Miriam, I don't know if you feel the same, but the OnePlus Open was when that felt really fresh to me, right? Because we were
same.
That was
Absolutely.
the same year as the Pixel Fold, which was closer to this actually in terms of shape, and then Samsung was still doing their more traditional
tall, skinny, crazy.
exactly.
Yeah.
And the Open felt fresh, but I think a big part of it was the software experience in the Open was very unique
absolutely.
with
Open Canvas.
Yeah. And I feel like that really helped that 1x1 screen feel like something more expansive than it was. And that has not been true on Google and Samsung's, their own takes on the 1x1 foldable. They have their own multitasking skills built in that are a little bit more restrictive, a little bit more fit into the screen that you have and no more. And so I feel like it didn't quite translate as well to these other devices. And you can see, I mean, even just from talking to Ben, like he's like, yeah, no, this makes like a lot more sense for most people and how they use their phone. The question kind of being, can they get used to the sort of oddities of a 16:10 front screen, because apps are not really made for that anymore.
I know, and that's the big thing for me. Like, I don't understand the angle of this is not as much of a multitasking beast. I think it's only that because we're not used to that 16:10
I think a little bit
ratio.
too, yeah.
Because honestly, the software does exactly the same stuff in terms of multitasking on the inner screen, and then but you now get two 16:10 apps side by side. Again, you have the same problem as the cover screen. I mean, what would be cool is if we could do 3, and I don't think you can do like 3 fully, because then you'd have probably closer to 20:9 times 3. What I'm really fascinated about with this is I think what Samsung nailed is the content consumption when open, whether you're watching video. Although, to be fair, if you put them side by side, Z Fold8 Ultra versus Z Fold8, you get the same size of video window when playing back 16:9 video. You still get the black bars. They're exactly the same. The actual end result is the same size video, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's
about
more,
that, yeah.
It's more rectangular, the display on the Z Fold8, but the video isn't actually bigger. So just be aware of that.
Yeah.
Strangely. But vertical, then you can do is an ebook reader, it's more like a sheet of paper. Yeah. So I love all of that. And I think the 10:9 front ratio is something that some people are going to have a hard time with. I think it really depends on how the apps kind of evolve to support it properly, because right now there's some issues from what I understand. But I personally don't have a problem with it. I think that it's harder to use one-handed, which for some people is going to be an issue. But I think it's a more compact, easier to pocket form factor. And that is really good. I think the weight is really good. I think Samsung kind of nailed the whole, it's really sexy, it's really sleek. I wish it was actually as thin or thinner than the Z Fold8 Ultra. And I think in future generations, I'll get there. We're talking like microns here. I mean, it's not a huge deal because like, look at it this way. The Razr Fold's 4.5 millimeter thick, right? The Z Fold8 Ultra is 4.1, which is the same as Honor Magic V6. 4.2 is the Oppo Find N6, which is my main, foldy phone. We're all in that same ballpark within a few microns. So, it's not really that much of a difference, especially because the Z Fold8 Ultra is only a little thinner this year because it has a lip that lets you open it easier. Like, they're actually measuring the frame and not measuring the actual thickness of the phone when they say 4.1. That's been my experience. Yeah. Because here's the thing, that case that my Z Fold8 Ultra is in that you saw 5 seconds ago when I showed it the Patreon, the UAG, it's a Z Fold 7 case. It fits absolutely perfectly in it.
Gotcha.
So we know that the dimensions are actually the same. It's just that it looks better on paper to not count the screen bezel inside the inner screen. Anyway, I digress. All I'm trying to say is that I think the Z Fold 8 needs to be a little thinner. And, I do wish it hadn't had some features removed. Like, I think that it needs to be just as good as the Ultra, because at that price point, you're going to say it's $200 difference. Yeah. It's a lot of money still. Like, at this point, you can swallow the $200, in my opinion. If you're buying this up front and you're not subsidizing it, which, that's also, even if you subsidize, I think the monthly payment is going to be roughly the same. So, like, you're picking between two form factors, and I really wish that you had a third camera that was a proper telephoto. To be fair, the Z Fold8 Ultra does not have a proper third telephoto. It's a potato camera. It's terrible. So, that's something that Samsung needs to improve across the board. I want it to be as thin as the Ultra. I want it to be the same cameras and more importantly, the same battery life. I really think they should be identical, even if the price is the same and people can pick the form factor. That's what needs to happen next time. I'd like to see them doing. And then people really have a choice. And I kind of feel like because of Apple coming in soon with a very similar device, I think that it's going to popularize that form factor. And we will see this become possibly the main folding phone for Samsung, at least for a short bit of time, in terms of sales. Like, I mean, a year or two. Maybe eventually people will be like, no, this aspect ratio doesn't work because, Google is sitting on their butts and not making the software work, or Samsung doesn't get it.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only reason I can see this failing right now. But I think that if they keep the price a little lower, and in that sense, they remove the camera to keep the price a little lower. I get that. But I think that it needs to be, because you're paying flagship plus prices, it really needs to have everything. And that could be argued, but at that point, the Ultra should be the same price. I don't know. What do you think of all of that?
Yeah, it's tricky, right? And so I think part of it is just the design. I think Samsung sees the design of the regular Fold 8 as being too short to include that third lens, right? Now, that is a problem of their own making. They made a big deal with the S26 launch about how they have finally, after a couple years of doing it with different models, rebuilt. Every Samsung phone has the same like vertical layout, like down to the A series. Like the cheapest A series phones have that same type of like vertical pill shaped. Samsung sees it as their like visual identifier for
right now
their brand. I think it's bad. Like I don't think it's.
But I mean, the wobble is a big problem on both.
The wobbles, right? The wobble is actually the identifying factor. But it's like you see the outline of like a pixel camera bump, you're like, that's a pixel. You see the outline of the iPhone's dynamic island, and you're like, that's an iPhone or a Chinese iPhone clone. You see the triple lens thing for Samsung as an outline. Again, just like imagine like lines. It's like, that could be anything really. It's probably Samsung, but like you don't know what phone. Certainly, it could be anything in their price, like from $200 to $2,000. They need to ditch it because it's doing things like this. Where I think it is part of why this phone. It's not the only reason, but it's part of why this phone doesn't have a telephoto. It is certainly why they have not embraced G2. It is a design issue with that camera bump. The reason they have not built G2 magnets into their phones.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's they can say all they want that they think that the cases solution is good enough for consumers, but like it is because many accessories overlap with their cameras. So I don't, that's all a mess. I totally agree with you that this phone should probably have 3 cameras at $1,900. I mean, and if it's going to have 2, I would rather have the telephoto is kind of where I'm at.
But it has to be a real one. Like I don't want that 10 megapixel 3X that we see in the Ultra, and the Ultra needs upgrades as well. But I think the other thing we have to look at, and as you're talking, I'm thinking in my head, well, Apple's only going to have 2 cameras and Samsung knows that. I mean, this is rumors and leaks at this point, but come on, we know, we've seen the mock-ups are probably the real thing. And so Samsung's like, well, why would we spend more money? They're going to undercut Apple for sure. I'm sure Apple's going to be 22, 23, 25, whatever, right? 100.
Yeah.
And so, but of course, Apple's going to be a real iPad when you open it, right? So like there's a whole different ecosystem happening once you open the phone. Now, the front is still going to have the same issues as Samsung, but I'm sure Apple's going to make it work for developers, and developers are going to jump right on it.
They always do. I mean, look at the difference between the rollout of Material, the themed icons with Android 12, right?
I can't keep track. I'm sorry.
I know. It's Material U. It's Material U. Material 3 Expressive is what followed. It's Material U with Android 12. And, years and years and years. And still, finally, Google was just like, okay, we're just going to force icons. And it doesn't look very good. Apple, did that in like most companies jumped right on their like kind of terribly looking tinted icon or colored icons, and the ones they didn't, they forced their hands immediately. They didn't give them a waiting period. I think it's going to be similar to this, where Apple is able to use their pressure as Apple, as opposed to how Google leverages Android to be like, get on board with our foldable. And part of it will be, as you said, iPad apps are just going to work inside that thing. on the outer screen, I think they're going to be like, don't you want to be a part of this?
Yeah, and developers are going to be on board because they know that's a market for them. Like, remember, they make money on Apple.
100%.
So, like, they're going to change the stuff they need to change 100%. If they need to change anything. Like, I know from talking to devs already, like, they're on board 100%.
It's only not worked once. The Vision Pro, like in recent history, the Vision Pro was the one time that Apple could not leverage like every developer to get on board. And it was a very, very niche product. This is going to be niche, but not to that degree. So I think they'll have no problem. It's an iPhone. It's going to have the word iPhone in it. It'll think, sell.
From that perspective, I think that if you look at Apple's doing 2 cameras and whatever, probably has a smaller battery than the Samsung, whatever. Like, I can see Samsung going like, well, let's not go too hard on this first one, right? So I'm going to give them the benefit of that. I love the form factor. I wish I had a device. I'm working really hard to get one, folks. I think this is the interesting phone this year. And that's why I wanted to revisit it on the second podcast where we talk about Samsung with Will, because I feel like a lot of the questions we had last week still haven't been answered, even though the reviews are out, even though Ben's reviewed it. By the way, I'll put the link to Ben's review because by the time I publish this, it'll be up. I'll leave the link to Dom's review as well, because I think he makes some really good points. Yeah, it's fantastic. Always. And I think for me, it's like, how is it going to be long-term? Like, once I have it in my pocket for a week, a month, once I use the front display for a week, a month, I think the inner display, I'm not worried about. I think that's going to be just fine. But it's that aspect ratio. How are the apps going to do it? Is it going to be a hassle to use one-handed? I mean, I've got big hands, but still, all that stuff. Because right now, when I pick up my Oppo Find N6 or the Z Fold8 Ultra that I have, it's like one-handed is fine. Like, it's narrow, I can use it. Apps fit perfectly fine on display because it's the same aspect ratio. Finally, since the Z Fold 7, same aspect ratio. Standard apps are running just fine. So, but I think, I like the angle of this is a more creation consumption device, whereas the Ultra is more, business.
Yeah, boardroom.
Exactly, like a device. It's like, it makes sense. But I think the price is, it's still very high. And of course, that doesn't matter with subsidies and stuff, but,
Yeah. Real quick, Miriam, I just wanted to correct myself. I did go back and look at Ben's review just to see what he said about multitasking, because I remembered one of my notes was for him to elaborate. He has since added part of the problem was the way that you arrange apps in terms of how the keyboard appears on the screen. So I think just in comparison to the square one, where you can kind of keep the keyboard at the bottom and your apps up top.
Yeah, it takes up
this
a
one's
lot
a little
of space.
bit more difficult. Yeah,
unless
so that
you
was
rotate.
That was where I was coming
I
from.
think if you're writing a document on the Z Fold8,
you're going to have to turn
portrait mode. Yeah,
yeah.
Because I do a lot of writing in the square screen on these foldables, because when I'm on a plane and I don't have the room to put out a laptop, even my little MacBook Neo, it doesn't fit on an airplane tray in some planes very well, very comfortably. So I use the foldables quite often to write on a 2-hour flight commuting between Vancouver and SF kind of thing. So, I'm used to it. And definitely I've noticed in my time with the Z Fold8 during the hands-on that I would have to definitely rotate it, because that keyboard just takes up so much space.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe, again, Google or Samsung can do something about that, because we know this form factor is going to stick. We know that the Chinese are working on their equivalents. And, or at least they're going to try, because Apple's doing it, so they need to be in the game, right? In China, consumers are going to be like, oh, well, we need one of those, but we want it from Oppo, or we need one of those, we want it from Xiaomi, or we want it from, Huawei or whatever, right? So anyway, let's move on to talking about Pixel, because there's lots of leaks and rumors. We haven't done news on the show other than Samsung for 2 weeks now, because it was all Samsung last week. Yeah. So that's kind of what I've gathered for the rest of the topics. Okay, Google's coming up with Made by Google event on August 12th. That's in 2 weeks-ish roughly, maybe a little less than that. And exciting. I'm a Pixel user. I've got a 10 Pro XL in my pocket. Mm-hmm. What are you expecting? I mean, we know that there's going to be that light bar or something around the camera. There was a teaser about that. We know some pricing and color leaks. I get the feeling that the pricing is going to be pretty aggressive. I think that Google's going to try hard as it can, like it did with the 10A, to keep the prices reasonable. But maybe the way they're going to do it is by bumping the storage up as a base. That's the rumors, right? I don't know. I'm hoping that's what they do. Because if they do that, yes, it starts at a higher price, but you get twice the storage on all base models. I would swallow that. Like, I don't know. What do you think?
It's complicated. Abner sat down with Google last week for an interview where they basically said that the price increase is coming with the Pixel 11. That these will be more expensive. We don't know how much. This is coming straight out of the RAM. Like, they are very much like, this is a RAM driven price increase.
I mean, we know the problem,
right? But it's no 100%. But I just want to make it clear that it's not like a like, they're not just like bumping up the prices because they had already planned to do this. This appears to be maybe a thing that even 6 months ago, these were set to repeat the prices from last year. Right. Now, I'm hoping, I mean, look, a $50 price increase I would take as a win. I would expect 100.
Yeah.
I do agree with you. I think they will. I don't think, I think Google shipping a 128 gigabyte Pixel
ridiculous.
10 last year was a mistake. And so I hope that, I agree with you. I hope it is basically that they cut that, but don't lower the price and leave the base model at 900 for the 256 gigabyte model. 900, right? I believe is the
that's what it was last year.
Okay. Just, I said it and then I started to second guess myself. So I'm hoping that's what happens, because I think really in the AI era too, like, you need
Gemini
Nano
some
takes
RAM,
up like 7 or 8 gigabytes of space on its own. It's crazy. Otherwise, yeah, these are very, if you have a Pixel 9, if you definitely have a Pixel 10 and probably a Pixel 9, this might not be the generation for you. It's going to be a lot of under the hood changes. I think it's going to be a lot of like Gemini changes or Gemini tweaks that like we won't really know a lot about until launch or announcement day, because those tend to not leak as much as the hardware. On the hardware side, we've heard 2 nanometer tensor for whatever rumor, that's worth.
I'm really hoping that G6 actually steps things up a notch, because look, that's the biggest complaint I have about my Pixel is I wish I had a Snapdragon in it, or even a MediaTek Dimensity.
I think it's just, the problem is that Google clearly does not care that much about processing power or GPU power, and I think that's okay for most people. But when you are now offering, it was fine when the Pixel started at $600, but when you were trying to sell it to people at the same price as the Snapdragon powered ones, and it can't do as much, especially on the gaming side, it becomes a complicated ask, I think, on Google's part. Pixel Glow is this rumored thing that essentially turns the LED. It was originally rumored to be the ring around the camera bar, and now they've teased it a couple of times. It appears to just be
an LED,
the LED flash. So it's the flash is now essentially RGB and can.
We're back to notification lights. Yay.
It's a notification light, is what it appears to be. We've seen it do in both of the teasers, the official teasers we've seen it active in. It basically does the Mac, your app is frozen.
Yeah, the animation thing.
Yeah.
It's actually technically a Google thing if you think about it. They've had that as an animation on boot up time and stuff like that before.
It's very Gemini. But it is funny to see it circular. It's like, I've seen that before.
Yeah.
But no, it's minor, and that appears to be in lieu of the temperature sensor seems to have gone to the great Google cemetery in the sky.
It. I don't think maybe 10 people will, but I never use it.
I gave it 2 years. It lasted 3, so I was a year off on my guess. But yeah, and otherwise, I mean, it's another Pixel. I really do think that if you're coming from an 8 or earlier, this is not a bad year for you to upgrade if the pricing is right.
I agree. Yeah.
Based on what we know so far, if you're waiting for some kind of, and it's a little disappointing because this is an anniversary year. This is the 10th anniversary of the first Pixel.
Oh, good point.
And when we had that with the iPhone, that was the year that they launched the iPhone 10, which set the stage for the next decade of iPhone. We're not really seeing that with Google this year. That might be a thing that comes next year, but we'll have to wait and see. But for now, this appears to be kind of the last hurrah for this design.
Yeah. To be fair, though, Google doesn't quite have they have the resources, but they don't invest into the Pixel brand nearly as much as Apple does into the iPhone brand. And so I also feel like the design, this unique, look that the Pixel has, why would you change that by, how would they define a 10th anniversary Pixel? Like, make a very high-end model that is even more expensive in this climate? Doesn't make any sense. I kind of think that it's not a bad thing that they didn't do a 10th anniversary. Maybe special edition colors would have been nice.
Yeah.
Like, maybe the four bright colors of Google as a SKU. Like you pay a little more and they're limited
Or
edition. I don't know, something
fan
like that would have been fun.
favorites, like everybody loved the really blue first gen Pixel.
Mhm.
Everybody loved the Panda Pixel 2 XL.
Oh my God.
They could have
yeah.
done some limited edition, like let's throw it back
yeah.
to
Exactly.
colors from yesterday. But
and then and you get maybe more storage and RAM. It's like a tricked out version that costs more or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm excited because I'm a Pixel user, and honestly, what I'm seeing here is very good. What I'm mostly excited about is those 2nm G6 rumors the MediaTek modem rumors, because here's the thing. That's the only thing that drives me nuts on my Pixel. And battery life, it's not great. It's not great, and it's not terrible, but it's also, I still have some overheating problems. I still have some occasional reboots. And come on, Google. Like, I don't get that on a Snapdragon device. I don't get that on the Oppo phones I have that are MediaTek Dimensity. Like, get it together, please. Make hardware. Like,
I just don't see the advantage anymore, because their whole pitch was AI, but Qualcomm has certainly caught up on the local AI elements.
Oh yeah,
like
there's
no, so I don't really see other than the fact that they can really tweak Tensor to do exactly what they want to do on Pixel for AI purposes, but like we've seen Google move kind of away from local LLMs over the last 12 months. They've moved a couple of their applications, either canceled their local applications or moved it to a cloud model because they're more powerful.
Yeah. Do you think that the Fold is going to see any improvements? Because here's my big thing, right? When the Open came out and it redefined what a folding phone should be for me. I mean, there were some Chinese folding phones before that were there already, like the Honors, the Magic V3, for example. But I think that the Open for me kind of was like the defining thing. And then immediately after that, we got the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, which nailed it. I think that they went from this prototype passport shape, Pixel Fold to this really awesome, really competitive, Pixel 9 Pro Fold at the time.
Yes.
And I gave both the Open and 9 Pro Fold editor's choices on Hot Hardware on my reviews, because they really pushed the envelope forward, whereas Samsung was really sitting on their laurels with the Z Fold 5 and Z Fold 6. They were just
6 especially was just a placeholder.
Terrible, right? And then, last year, we got the Z Fold 7, which finally lined up with, Magic V5 and
huge
and
leap,
Oppo
especially in
Find
North America.
And 5, which were both like, the thinnest and packed with hardware and packed with features. And then, they caught up in terms of dimensions and thickness and weight, but they still didn't have a digitizer, still didn't have like the good camera system and the batteries on the Z Fold 7. But then I was like, okay, maybe Google will surprise us, because they did with a 9 last year. The 10 Pro Fold was basically a 9 Pro Fold with a slightly different chip and water resistance, which is great. And IP68 was awesome, but it felt so old and so bulky compared to the state of the art, especially after the Z Fold 7 and Samsung kind of legitimized what the thickness and weight of the Chinese phone should be in the West, right? So now I feel like if they do a repeat of that with the Pixel 11 Pro Fold, it's going to, if it's as thick as last year, it's thicker than the Razer Fold, which is a phenomenal phone, by the way, which is a great competition to those Samsung phones in the West and especially in North America. And then if it's thicker than that, it's not competitive, even if it's got a new chip in it. But what else are they going to do? I don't see them updating the cameras. They don't have the real estate for that. And the cameras are good enough, I feel like. They're probably better than the Z Fold 8 Ultra, to be honest, overall, in terms of results. So they need to get as thin and as light as Samsung and the Chinese to be competitive and still keep the water resistance, keep the MagSafe magnet, and add that new chip. And I don't see them doing that, or I don't see the price staying reasonable. And so it'll be a toss. I feel like, I don't know. What are your thoughts on what they might do for a folding phone this year?
So I had to look up the leaks. So because the core design that we've seen in every leak is much like the rest of the Pixel 11 series.
But is it thinner and lighter? That's the question, right?
So that's what I had to look up. So the leaks we've had on dimensions point to it being 10.1 millimeters when folded, which is exactly what the Razer Fold is when folded. I can't tell you what it'll be when the
Open,
when it's unfolded, if it's exactly the same number or if that'll be a little bit off, but that would tie it with the Fold down from 10.8. So that's a decent jump. Not quite Z Fold 8 Ultra status, and not even Z Fold 8, because the regular 8 is also under 10 millimeters.
Correct.
But thinner, which is always good. And once you hit, I feel like once you hit 10 millimeters, it's like, okay.
I think 9 millimeters is the line, because that's where all the standard phones are.
That's
at,
golden.
Right?
9 is golden. I feel like 10, if you're not putting a case on it, it's okay. Yeah. You're like, this is about how bulky a phone would be if I put a case, like a standard phone, if I put a case on it. So You're like, okay, we're in the right space. I have not seen any leaks to my knowledge about weight. And that is the bigger question for me.
Correct.
Because
that's a big deal.
I think weight is the biggest factor with these things. That's why, I mean, you see Samsung is really pushing
they really are.
The weight of the Fold 8 as a big selling point. It's like one of the big things at the top of the store page.
It is really, really light when you touch it.
It's because it's like, and I mean, that was my biggest, a phone that I really did not like. Probably the worst phone I've ever reviewed in my time reviewing, which is this decade, which is not as long as you, Miriam. So you'll have to bear with me. But
what is it? Now you got me on the edge of my
Pixel Fold. It's the Pixel Fold. Like in terms of, yes, the original. I was with you. I praised the 9 when it launched 2 years ago. But the original Pixel Fold, in addition to having Tensor G2 problems.
Oh my God.
You want to talk about Tensor? That was the nadir of Tensor. That was as bad as it ever got. And but it was also and it had hinge issues, and the inner screen was really bad. But the biggest thing that stopped me from wanting to ever use that phone again, it was not that far off from 300 grams.
It was insane.
It was you would even closed, you would hold it and you would start to feel your like wrist get fatigued. I'm not trying to make myself sound weak or whatever. It's just, there's something about like these, once you get to a certain weight on these devices, that it doesn't become comfortable to use for long periods of time.
I mean, I'll be honest,
yeah.
iPhone 17 Pro Max, Galaxy S26 Ultra, and some of the Chinese Ultra phones are too heavy.
I agree. Like,
especially the iPhone and those like Oppo Find X9 Ultra. Now I love it because it's so incredible. I use it a lot for camera, but it is a hefty freaking phone. Yeah, I got it too. I got mine in a...
Ben just sent it to me, so I only unboxed this like 2 days ago. So this is new to me.
Aramid case here that's got magnets.
There we go.
But look, this phone is like
It's massive.
Heavy.
It's a brick.
It is a brick. And I feel that way about the iPhone 17 Pro Max too. Like,
I agree.
It's pretty hefty. So, look, weight it matters. Let's see what they do on the Pixel 11 Pro Fold. I really think that this chip is going to make or break how we feel about Pixel this year. The hardware is not, the rest of the hardware is going to be the same. They're going to have slightly better cameras, slightly better batteries, of course. And the price is a big question mark as well. But it's that chip. Can the chip run with the big boys, or at least the 8 Gen 5 and the Dimensity maybe 8500? Like, at least being a little second tier is fine. But like right now, it's not even second tier. I feel like G5 is a joke, honestly, right now.
Okay, it's so frustrating because it was like this chip that got really hyped up pre-launch by Reddit, really, and then like it came out and it was not what people wanted it to be, and I wouldn't say it's an outright bad chip.
No,
it's not.
I mean, as you said, G2 was like the worst we ever got.
G2 was like genuinely would just overheat like randomly in my pocket. Like truly, like I had awful times with that.
100%, same problem.
My Pixel 10 has been fairly rock solid. I do every now and then, but like, the example I always go back to, when I set this phone up almost a year ago, it did not get hot during device transfer. And that is
a big deal. Yep.
That's a big deal. And so like, G5, I think, was a leap forward in terms of Google getting not perfect, but better at heat management and efficiency. The question now is, and the rumors do not point to this. The rumors point to like still a so-so GPU or whatever, but can they at least meet the demands that people have in terms of this phone, so that customers do not feel like they are getting a downgraded experience because they want Pixel software as opposed to like Galaxy software? Like I really think that's what they need to do.
Yeah, let's find out. I mean, I'm gung-ho about the Pixel still, but...
I hope so. I'm cautiously optimistic. That's what I would say. Yeah.
They just need to go back to Snapdragon, call it a day. That's
It's
all
in
they
the
need
watch. They use it in the watch.
You're
Like
right.
I it's not even like they're fully, on Tensor. I would love to see them. I would love a Snapdragon powered. It wouldn't even need to be this gen. We can go back 2 gen, like there's nothing wrong with the Snapdragon 8 Elite.
No.
Let's do that one.
Yeah.
That one's almost 2
Or
years
even
old.
Even the 8 Gen 5. I mean, the Razer
Sure.
Fold has
Yes.
proven that
Correct.
it has better thermal management for a mobile phone.
Yes.
Sorry, for a folding phone, right? Than the 8 Elite Gen 5. Like, you can push it to the max and it's perfectly happy. So like, let's do that.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Apple, because Apple did something that's, hurting the internet right now. And I don't understand exactly why it's hurting the internet, because leasing is something that we've had for a long, long time, folks. Apple has a new upgrade feature, program, whatever you want to call it. It's basically lease your phone. And it's not just phone. You can do your watch, your iPad, your MacBook. You've got 1 or 2 year leases on the phones and the watches, I think, or maybe it's the iPads and the Macs are 2 or 3 year leases. And look, it's a lease, but somehow the internet's losing its mind. Like, maybe it's because I'm older and I've leased things before that it doesn't really bother me. Now, there is an angle that I can see being a problem for some people, and in general could be philosophically argued to be an issue. And it's the end of ownership issue, right? Like it's a slippery slope of do you ever own anything? Everything's subscription based. It's terrible. In that context, I understand the fear, the concerns, the discussions that are going on. But I think that from a purely financial perspective, this is a lease. You can basically pay a monthly payment for that duration of time that you pick, either a year or 2 for your phone. And then at the end, you can pay the difference or finance the rest, or you can just return it and get another phone. It's exactly the same as leasing a car. Now, you're responsible for damages to the phone. So you
just like a car.
So you need to get Apple Care or whatever if you feel like you're clumsy. And that's I don't see the big deal. This is great.
I'm with you. So coincidentally, Miriam, my dad needs a new iPhone. He has an iPhone 12. I was shopping to get him an iPhone. I was going to just buy him an iPhone 17. And then I was like, I really thought about how he uses his phone. And I was like, he doesn't need anything more than the 17E. The 200, I know the display is much nicer on the 17. He will not notice or care. It is not worth the $200. So I was doing this week, and literally yesterday, I truly did not know. I saw the upgrade option on the Apple Store, and I just was like, oh yeah, that must be there, because I'm a little out of it, out of the Apple buying ecosystem, and I was like, oh, that must be whatever current upgrade line they have going. And then 2 hours later I was like, oh no, this is new, sorry, I totally missed that they announced this morning. And yesterday morning as we're recording. And I just, Klarna is a problem here. I think people had a knee-jerk reaction because of Klarna. Totally get it. Not a good company.
No.
However, I mean, you look at these, and I had to make sure, because the Verge put together a spreadsheet. If you are willing to do the buyout amount at the end, which is going to be somewhere between, for an iPhone, roughly on average $250. That's the median number. It ranges from $167 to $360. So as long as you can pay that buyout amount at the end of your 24-month lease, you're not paying any additional money.
No, there's zero interest. That's it. Which, by the way, interest. Most leases on cars have an interest rate. So
absolutely,
this is good. For Apple, they can make more money. And they, of course. And number 2, it makes the higher end iPhones more accessible to more people. I think that's a win that people are not talking about. Now, is it a win for you that you end up renting a phone essentially year after year because you're tech savvy early adopter like us, and now you're going to change iPhones every year or 2? That's something that you need to decide for yourself. You're not forced to do this. You can still go to the Apple Store, buy the unlocked phone full price, or finance it with your credit card, or whatever you want to do. You can do the trade-in program, which I still think is one of the best. Apple has one of the best trade-in programs. And so, you have options. But the reality is now there's a tier of people who don't have the same income as we do, maybe, that can access iPhones that are better iPhones for a lower price, just like leasing a car. And more importantly, you now have a secondary market that's going to create that's even bigger. And since iPhones keep their value up, this is a win for everyone. I think that The big question now, and I want your thoughts on this, is like, is this so enticing that we're slowly slipping into the end of ownership and Samsung's going to do the same? But arguably, we've had the end of ownership on phones since the carriers, since 25 years ago. You were so locked into your carrier, there's no way you could even buy a phone in the US.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like if you brought an unlocked phone to a carrier like I did with VoiceStream in 2000 before they were called T-Mobile, they looked at you sideways and said, get out of the store. Like I'm joking. They were actually really cool about it. But that's why I stuck with them and they became T-Mobile. But if you went to a cellular store back then with an unlocked phone, they were the only two GSM carriers on the West Coast at the time. They would laugh you out of the store. They're like, no, you're buying our phone, right? So I think that this is always, we're not really changing anything here. It's just that now it's Apple that you're paying, not the carrier. And I think I'd rather pay Apple.
100%. No, that's exactly what I was going to say. I just see this as exactly how people buy phones through their carriers, except through Apple now. It's the exact same idea. I agree with you because it's 12 or 24 instead of like essentially locked into 36. And you don't have to be, because like to get those really good deals from Verizon, T-Mobile, or AT&T, mostly Verizon and AT&T, it's less so on T-Mobile, but still, you usually have to be on either their top tier or close to top tier plan. And that ends up kind of not saving you a ton of money anyway, especially if you don't need that top tier plan, which a lot of people don't. Now, I'm not saying that the listeners of this show probably do, but a lot of people do not need like the top tier plan you can get from those carriers. Now, that is a problem here. I would say the one real big downside here actually has nothing to do with the program itself. I think the pricing is fine. Like I said, as long as you can pay that, $300-ish at the end of the lease, like, or if you want to keep the phone, you're not losing money here. You're still paying the $1,200 for an iPhone 17 Pro Max.
It's free interest rate. Like, go for it.
Exactly.
Like,
it's 0% interest for the 24 months. Like, you're not, it's credit, but it's a payment plan. The problem is I believe you need a postpaid carrier. You need a plan through Verizon, T-Mobile, or AT&T that is postpaid. And that does kind of interfere with exactly who you would think would benefit the most from this, which is lower income customers. But they might be on an MVNO.
Like, why do you need a plan? I thought you can just walk to the Apple store and say, here's my, I want to do the thing. And then you walk out and it's unlocked and you can do whatever you want.
I believe you have to, when you check out with Upgrade, and I'm doing this live on the show.
Oh, please do. I love you for it.
I believe
this is great. You're like,
that you need to
we'll find out, folks.
You have to select either AT&T, T-Mobile, or Verizon. If you're going through the upgrade, the Apple upgrade path, there is no other unlocked option. It has to be one of those three.
Oh, well.
That's the biggest downside.
That kills it for me then.
Yeah.
Why would you do
I know.
that?
And we're in the era of MVNOs. Like so many people I know have switched to MVNOs because they're essentially the same service but cheaper and frequently more enjoyable to you than Verizon or T-Mobile or AT&T. So I think that's the biggest bummer here.
That is not good. That changes everything. Ah, damn it. Anyway, speaking of Apple real quick, finishing up, there is a roadmap that has leaked of their Mac products. And I take that with a grain of salt, but it's kind of exciting. If you're a Mac user like me, we're going to get a Neo 2, of course, with 19 Pro chip. We're going to M6 MacBook Pro, like not the Plus or Pro or whatever, the not the better chips, because apparently those are going to be M5 chips. And then we're going to get an M7 chip at some point. It's gonna. Right. I don't think the M6 is gonna get the higher end chip treatment from Apple, from what it looks like on that roadmap. We're getting iMacs. Right. We're getting Mac Studios and Mac Minis. Mac Minis with M5, chips. So that's cool because right now they're M4s. And I'm excited about all that because I'm a Mac user. So check it out. I'll put a link. It's 9 to 5 Google, so it's a respectable source. What are your thoughts? Are you a Mac user?
I'm both. I'm recording. My desktop is Windows, but I have a MacBook Air. That is my laptop of choice. I mean, look, they're crushing it. Like, it's just
they really
doing
are.
what you're doing. I hope RAM stops being a problem at some point, right? But the MacBook Neo, for my money, is like the most, and even with its $100 price hike now, like still the most exciting product
It
that
really
I think
is.
is launched this year. And it's included in this. Nothing about it. Well, actually, something about it getting in the A19 Pro at some point, but also periodically refreshed apparently with new
Colors, yeah.
with new colors, and I'm super into that.
You know what? Speaking of RAM and going back to the
Yeah.
upgrade, I think that this might be a way for Apple to kind of alleviate the RAM pricing issues, right? If they keep that monthly payment the same on the next generation of phones, I think that'll be really a benefit to people. We'll find out.
I agree.
We've got a bunch of other kind of like random Chinese phone-ish news that I want to really go through quickly. But before we do, you have interviewed the CEO, was it, of Light?
Yeah, it was Kai and Joe from Light. I believe Kai is the CEO, but I think they're both co-founders.
Co-founders,
So
that's what I meant.
Me and on my podcast, The Sideload. Yeah,
they just announced in the last 2 weeks, since I haven't covered news, the Light Flip, which is a relatively affordable $299 flip phone, no folding phone here. That's obviously following the kind of Light approach to phones, which is kind of like this, detox thing. And it looks really cool. It looks like something Nokia would have designed 10 years ago or 15 years ago.
It's got the razor chin to it too. It's got that like...
it looks really cool. So you talked to them on the last podcast. What's your take on Light in general and on this phone in particular?
Those guys are fascinating. They are. If you think there's anything cynical about their pitch to create a bridge between the traditional dumb phone and a smartphone, like something that is simplistic but still can get you around modern society, they are very driven in their ideals. Like they are doing what they want to do and building the company they want to build, and I think it's fascinating. It's not going to be for everybody, including this phone. We were talking in the pre-show that this thing is 18 millimeters thick. It's a bulky device. You're gonna want a belt clip. I think for this one.
The return of the belt clip.
The return of the belt clip. But putting that aside, like there is something very like you look at this thing and you see the photos of them using like pre-production models with like with navigation and stuff, and you're like, there's something kind of fun about this in a gadget lover's way, right? Like there's the tactile T9 buttons and all that. Like there's something very fun about it. And the biggest thing with the Flip is that they've managed, unlike Light Phone 3, which is very expensive. It's as expensive as the Pixel 11 will be, right? Like this is $300. You can also get it on a subscription plan with their own MVNO service included, so that if you're using this as a secondary number, it's kind of one bill altogether, which is cool. The other downside of this, it's not launching till April, so we've got a ways to go.
Wow.
But I think they wanted to show this off. Yeah, I asked them. I actually don't believe they have working units yet. So this is a ways to go. But they, I think, wanted to get ahead of kind of the. I mean, look, this is a growing market. I mean, you just said you had Michael Fisher on last week, and obviously he's got the Clicks communicator coming. I think there's a lot of noise in this. How do we find some minimalism, some balance in this in the AI age, right? And so I think they're kind of trying to get ahead of what they see as growing competition. But it's a really interesting product that I'm kind of dying to know more about, because even just as something to just throw in my pocket for fun, like I am a little intrigued by it. Yeah.
No, I think it's cool. I mean, I like the design approach that they have to their products. Like, it really designs forward both software and the hardware. It's really cool.
They really leaned into colors on this one too. Like the reds
bold,
and blues
fun
and yellows
colors,
are very bold.
Nokia, as I said. My big question here is, for this doesn't have a touchscreen, so your T9, right? Like it's D-pad and T9, which I think there's a whole new generation that needs to rediscover that, but I don't personally want to go back to that. I think that also, here's the thing, like TCL and other vendors make phones that are powered by KaiOS that do the same for less money, especially from carriers. Like you can go in a T-Mobile store and get like a flip phone today that has KaiOS, which basically has some apps and is exactly the same thing. No touchscreen. Now you don't get the cool color and cool design, and you don't get the cool layer of software from Light.
Right.
But
I think the software is everything.
If you want to detox, maybe do that. Like, that phone has a MediaTek 4G chip, and it's not like, it's very basic, right? You can hotspot it, of course. But you can do that with a TCL phone that I just mentioned. I don't know if it's TCL. I'm just making it up, but the point is, again, it's a bit of a hard sell when you think that you can just walk into a T-Mobile store, pay $50 and walk out. Yeah, sure, you have a basic plan that goes with it, but Light has this NVNO, so it's like the same thing, right? So I'm just like, the whole concept of these detox phones, like I'm on board with Clicks because it's like, if you like the QWERTY keyboard, you want a BlackBerry experience, that makes sense to me. That makes more sense than T9. But it's also detox. Clicks can run any app. It's like, I think the concept of detox is broken because you can create a detox phone from like a Samsung Galaxy A19, by just putting the right app on it.
For sure. And I would say, I don't want to put too many words in Kai and Joe's mouth. We actually get a lot into, this is exactly what we ended up kind of getting into on that episode of my podcast.
I'll link to the episode for sure.
Yeah, please. But I just don't want to, but basically what I would say to summarize their points of view, they are very upfront that this phone is essentially a response to the wants or needs or complaints of people buying the phones you're talking about, that they said they were hearing from people who had purchased those phones to try to do a digital detox and were frustrated by them. And so that's why they've built this thing that has 5G and modern navigation and it kind of has an app store. They're working on this. They have this like in development like app toolbox thing that is going to make it a little bit more flexible for people who need something like rideshare, for example. They said that is 100% in the works. So they know all of this. They know there are cheaper phones. They know there are that you can do this right now on Android. And I think they see their place in the market being this kind of like specialized niche, but like very specifically targeted gadget, which to be honest with you, whether or not they pull it off, they have been around for 10 years and I'm always going to say we need more of that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
We need more than less.
I'm just wondering if they shouldn't pivot into a software solution.
I don't disagree. I think they could do both. I think there is space for them to have this hardware and then also be like, by the way, we built this Android launcher, because I've certainly used things, and I had Peter from Niagara on the show a few weeks ago as well. You can use something like Niagara, which is running on the Clicks communicator,
absolutely,
to do this. And so there's a lot of options out there, and it's like I said, it's becoming a much more packed market of competition than it was even 2 years ago.
And you're right. I think
it's interesting.
The whole approach of Light is the whole experience, right? Like software, hardware, vertical, like really nice, really polished. As you said, this is a 5G IoT chip, not a 4G chip like on that TCL phone I was using an example. Correct. There is the software on that TCL phone would be terrible, et cetera, et cetera. I get all that. I'm just saying like $299 is still a little...
It's pricey. It's not going to be for everybody.
But let's see how it develops. I want these phones to exist because I want variety, but at the same time, I'm just like, it's not for me. So I'm just like, why not just make Android do what you want it to do? Like, with software. Because you know what
it is for you, Miriam? A robot phone.
That's a good transition to our next topic. So now we know the robot phone is going to be announced somewhere in China on the 12th of August, which is the same day as Google. Honor trying to be shit disturbers as usual. But I think, look, it's fine. I think I support this thing because there's so many things in here that are interesting to me. The fact that it's a smaller phone, 6.3-inch display, the fact that it has this much real estate dedicated to so much camera stuff. I mean, the gimbal takes up space, and the camera specs are insane. The fact that Ari is involved, as a, kind of like the Hasselblad Oppo thing.
Yeah.
The fact that, it's to make a gimbal that small and light is a technical achievement. I'm a camera person. I don't see myself doing the selfie creator thing with this much, but like I definitely see myself using this for like car videos and stuff, where right now when I walk around a car to do like a 360, I use a normal phone and they're all really high-end flagships, but stabilization is always still lacking, No,
I know.
And again, nothing beats a gimbal at that point. So like, I want kind of like, imagine being able to have your own phone, your daily driver phone, also be your Osmo Pocket. That's basically the thesis here. And
that's exactly what I was going to say.
That there's an entire group of creative people out there, or creators or influencers, whoever you want to call them, that are going to be on on board with that, especially in China where there's more variety. And so like the question, of course, we're not going to get in the US, but the question is how, like, will it come to the West? And if it does, how does it come to the West? And, do we get to review it and all that? So I'm very excited about this one.
I'm not holding my breath for it to come to the US, but I do think it's a really cool idea for exactly the reason you just said, which is that I don't own a DJI Pocket, but I would love to. Like, it is one of those things that has always appealed to me. Of like, ooh, like if I just find a few $100 laying around,
yeah, the
like
problem is that
maybe that's a thing.
You're paying for that. Like, it's another device to maintain, another device to update, another device to charge, and that's where I think the appeal. Of course, this is going to be very expensive, but so the upfront cost might be even more than buying an Osmo separately.
It's like foldables, though. It's like because it's something that fits more into my pocket or is more of a piece, and I don't know, it becomes something that I'm more likely to have on me, and so maybe it's worth that added cost.
We'll find out, folks. OnePlus 16 rumors. Well, OnePlus is, we've rehashed this to death. It's not going to come to the US, I think. But hey, it's interesting to see what we could have gotten. I'm like, those specs that's why I kind of brought it in, like 9,000 milliamp hour battery. Woo.
I don't even know what to do with that. My first battery bank, we were just looking this up on one of the 9 to 5 podcasts. The first battery bank I ever owned was in 2012, and it was 10,000 milliamp per hours. And this is basically that, but in a phone. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I've had a 10,000 milliamp hour Realme phone. It was a kind of a lower end budget mid-range phone but it's the same thickness as a regular phone with all the same features. So this is going to obviously have the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 6, if that's what it's called, and all the flagship specs as well. Probably the cameras are going to be a little lesser than the equivalent Oppo, as usual. But look, if you're in a market where this is available, or if you can import and I think you'll be able to import these phones in the US. And I think they will work just fine band-wise based on my experience with Oppo phones. So you should be okay. If you want to stick with OnePlus, you'll have the option. And I just wanted to put it out there that, it's coming. Keep an eye on it. We got a couple of nothing bits of news here, and they tie in with OnePlus a little bit because, of course, OnePlus has kind of left a lot of markets in the world and staying in China and for now India, but we know that's also going to be going away eventually, even though they're launching these N series phones right now in India, which is really weird. I don't understand this strategy at all. No. If you're going to exit the India market in 2027, supposedly, why are you launching phones in 2026 in India? I guess just to see if it'll stick and if you should stick around, maybe that's what it is. I don't get it. But nothing is rumored to potentially be exiting some markets. And I feel that there is some validity to that. That's potentially true. But at the same time, they've denied it. Fair enough. But that doesn't mean anything. At the same time, I do feel a little torn. Like, I love what Nothing's doing, but they are spreading themselves, or they have been spreading themselves a little thin in the last few years with too many phones, too many devices, too many brands, even CMF. I love what they're doing. Don't get me wrong. But maybe a little more focus, Carl. Maybe a little, and I don't think you should do a flagship, not in this current state. I think I brought out the Phone 4a Pro that I had stored away since I stopped using it a few months ago because I wanted to re-experience what I think is the best phone they've ever made. Like, this is where your sweet spot is right now, Carl.
Yeah.
Stick in that lane, keep perfecting it, keep making the insanely great earbuds and headphones. Keep the CMF brand around, but maybe for just accessories, since it's impossible to make a competitive budget phone like you did with the CMF phones, which were amazing. Like, do that. And there's rumors of them making an Wear OS watch. I'm really on board with that because even though I like those real-time OS watches, ultimately I've been wearing Wear OS watches for so long now. Like, I keep alternating between my Pixel Watch 4 that I'm wearing here that I'm showing, between that and the OnePlus Watch 3 and the Galaxy Watch Ultra. I don't have the new one yet. And honestly, they're all Wear OS and they're great. I like having the ability to have maps run on my wrist and tell them, and have the little mini map running and lift my wrist when I'm walking around London, like I was last week, without having to pull out my phone and having to worry about somebody snatching it out of my hand, because apparently that happens a lot. I'm sure it's just iPhones anyway. They're not going to snatch a pixel out of my hand, but
yeah, they grab when they walk it back. They're like, I'm sorry, I thought this was an iPhone.
I've been very pro real-time OS on watches, and then there are some things you can't do unless you have an Apple Watch and a Wear OS watch, and those things, if nothing's going to make, that's the rumor is nothing's going to make a Wear OS watch, so I'm on board with that. But I do think that overall, if those rumors of them downsizing a bit in terms of their market that they're launching in or making their devices, I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't think it's the end of nothing. I think Carl knows what to do. Focus, Carl. That's my takeaway.
Yeah, it's trying to, nothing was a pretty, as far as the mobile market goes, pretty late entry into this market space, I would say, right? Like it felt like by the time nothing shows up, I would say, the smartphone has been set in stone as like what we expect from it. And that's rare. Joining the smartphone race is almost like trying to and I'm not saying this doesn't happen. It actually might be more difficult to launch a new smartphone brand than launch a new car brand. But that's in my head, like the closest equivalent. Where people have already kind of dug in their heels on what they like, and there's this entire I don't want to say cabal, that's probably too negative, but this group of legacy members who want to keep their client base locked into their vehicles as much as possible, and I feel the same about smartphones. And I do think, if I can be positive for a second, which is
oh my god, well,
rare for me. I know I'm never positive. But I do wonder if there is or optimistic, maybe is the better word. There's a window here in the RAM crunch for a company like Nothing to really cement excellent mid-range phones, which is their bread and butter, as hey, we are the company. Everybody else is about to charge you $1,300 for the phone that was $800 2 years ago. Come buy our $600 phone. You're going to have just as good of a time, and it's going to be fashion forward. And you're going to be really happy with it, and you're not going to have to deal with the inflating price tags that Samsung is pushing on their phones, even though they're the company that makes the RAM.
And the software
there's
is
a market
amazing,
there,
right?
Yeah, exactly. There's a line. It's tricky and not guaranteed success, but I think that's Nothing's best path to success.
I agree 100%. So let's see how that develops. Dimensity 9600 rumors. This is just a PSA. If you're following the chip world, the G6 2 nanometer rumors, we've got, of course, Snapdragon rumors. Apparently, a third Snapdragon 8 series Gen 5 chip is supposedly in the works, in addition to what they're going to be announcing with Gen 6, if that's what it's called. But the interesting bit is, remember, in the last 2 or 3 years, Apple's been making a regular A chip and a Pro A chip, right? And they're very similar. And so apparently MediaTek might do the same with Dimensity 9600, where there's a regular and any slightly better. It's not going to be the Plus that comes out later, which has basically bumped clock speed. This would be slightly different. So that's actually very fascinating to me, because I feel like it does make sense.
Yeah, it's tricky. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's I am excited for the 2 nanometer era, regardless of how many variants come. But I'm finding it difficult to be super, super excited, because I'm holding off. I'm bracing for these prices, I don't know what the devices these are coming in are going to be priced at. And so as much as I'm excited for them, and I am kind of looking at these quote unquote lesser, still flagship, but lesser flagship chips, if I can say that. Try saying that.
No, I agree.
As okay, that's sort of all I need. Look, I'm not playing a Genshin Impact on my phone or anything like that.
Right.
I really in terms of gaming performance, exactly. I just want it to stay cool, last a long time, and open apps as fast as possible. And if a chip can hit that and be cheaper than a more powerful alternative that is overkill for what I need, I'm there.
As I mentioned, Razer Fold, perfect example.
Exactly.
That 8
perfect
Gen
example,
5,
yeah.
I was very kind of annoyed by it. I was like, why didn't you put the flagship chip in there? It's your flagship phone. And then I used it and I was like, yeah, this makes sense now. It doesn't overheat like the other ones. All the 8 Elite Gen 5 folding phones I have, as soon as you push them hard, battery life, overheating, they tank because there's no thermal. envelope there. There's no bandwidth. Whereas on the 8 Gen 5, you're just like, yeah, okay, fine. You can push it. It's happy. And I think that's, that's important. So let's see what happens. I'm MediaTek's been a sponsor in the past. I think their stuff is really solid. Every phone I've used,
they've come a long way.
Yeah, I think that I'm really excited to keep track of what they're doing. So stay tuned on that, folks. It's going to be happening soon. Will robots and the FCC stupidity. Look, the FCC, our regime. Let's not even have a discussion about that because I could have an entire podcast about our administration.
Name the time and place, Miriam. We'll do it.
Oh, man. But you know how I feel about our regime right now. And they keep messing things up in many, many ways and many, many things. But on the tech side, there's been this drone ban followed by a router ban and now a robot ban, which is just putting us back in the Stone Ages, just like the whole EV thing that's been going on. And I cannot wrap my head around because this is not solving the problems that these three categories of products have, which is security. It's just basically...
It's a shakedown.
Yeah, it's a shakedown. Yeah. It's anti-competition. It's protectionist. And more importantly, it's going to hurt the consumers and not going to help security and all that stuff. So they want to ban robots. That means vacuum robots. That means lawnmower robots. That means humanoid robots. That means quadruped robots. That means anything that's weighs, get this, I don't know this arbitrary number, 4.4 pounds, including the dock, which, most docks are pretty heavy duty, especially for a vacuum robot since they have the built-in, mopping liquids and stuff. Like, this is stupid. And the way to get around it is like just like with cars and drones and routers, you can get an exception. And if you bribe the right person in the government, you'll get an exception and you'll be fine. And then you don't really have to manufacture in the US because that's what they say. You need to manufacture. Like we're able to do that. We don't have anything in place. We don't have the expertise. We don't have the people. We don't have the supply chain. Nope. We let that go 20, 30, 40 years ago when we went to a service software-based economy when we let China build that stuff for us. And now China has that expertise and we should be partnering with them to say, hey, you can come to the US and manufacture your stuff, hire some American workers.
Right. Yeah.
Like that would make way more sense. And then have American companies compete. I don't know. It's all broken.
No,
it pisses me off.
It pisses me off too. The thing I think of is like, if you are even remotely like, well, I don't know, maybe the government has a good point here. The only thing you need to remember is that the router ban went into effect in March, and in April, that was when the FCC was like, oh, but Netgear is no longer a part of this. They get an exception.
They paid their bribe, Will.
Look, neither company ever said what changed, and I will let the listener read into what I think happened there. It sure sounds like it was probably like a quid pro quo kind of thing. Like I don't know how else to read it. This is my opinion, etc. But I look at this stuff and it's like, and especially this FCC under Brandon Carr.
Oh my God, he's a dummy. Remember?
Yes, he's a bit of a hack. Like I don't know what else to call him. Like, dude, you're just like nakedly partisan. So like I'm gonna read every action you do through nakedly partisan light, and that's this. You are looking to make money off these companies that are primarily like, making products in China. And because, maybe partially because the tariff plan didn't work and was shot down by the Supreme Court, you have decided the next best thing is to be like, oh, well, you're banned from the country unless you pay us a certain amount of cash that we're not going to tell the public.
Until you kiss the golden ring.
Absolutely.
Yep. This is what we've come down to, folks. We've distilled ourselves to that low. Well, on that positive note, but Will, you're never positive, so that's fine.
It's a critique I get that I can be a little pessimistic.
I absolutely do not feel that way about you, to be honest with you.
Thank you. I think that I try to be realistic more than pessimistic.
I think you are, and I think I'm an eternally optimistic person, and it comes to bite me all the time. But I will continue because I want to believe that ultimately we collectively will all do the right thing. At some point, we'll figure it out. So that's my positive ending right now.
There we go. I like it.
Will, tell folks where they can find you on the internet. of course, your 9 to 5 Google stuff, but all the
Yes.
podcasts you do and like the
God,
social media.
so many podcasts.
Like, please
Yeah.
tell the world.
Social media is tough. I'm on everything, but am I posting a lot? Not really. You can follow me anywhere. I think I'm Will_Saddleberg at most places, but
Okay.
you can find me. Yeah, really realistically, go to 9 to 5 Google. We actually just launched 9 to 5 Google Pro. $5 a month gets you a whole bunch of perks, including the main podcast we do is Pixelated. Myself, Abner, Damien, talking about Pixel news, talking about Google News and Android news. We do a bonus episode every week now. So that $5
Wow.
a month gets you like 4-ish bonus episodes where we are talking tech or tech adjacent. You know, today I announced my wedding date that I locked in yesterday on
Oh my
the
God,
bonus
congrats.
episode.
Wow. Oh,
you.
wow. Cool.
So that's behind the paywall. But yeah, you know, we're just kind of it kind of came out partially of like Damien, myself, and Abner would hang out for another 45 minutes after we recorded an episode just talking, and it was like, these are just podcasts. These are just like slightly more off-topic podcasts. And so they're really fun. Again, $5 a month supports the whole network. Also check out my podcast, The Sideload. That's the other thing we're doing at 9 to 5. That's an interview show. Miriam, you are absolutely due for it if you are ever not feeling too burnt out from podcasts.
Feel free to have me on. Yes, you
absolutely.
can count on me. Let's do it.
Awesome. But yeah, those are my two things. Go find them where podcasts are found.
Folks, I'll put links in the show notes for everything. So keep an eye out on that. You know where to find me. I'm at Tankrl, TNKGRL, like the comic book character. Drop all the vowels. That's my handle pretty much everywhere except on TikTok, where you should add my year of birth, which is 6'9" at the end. And I'm mostly active on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky, but you know, I'm on all the platforms. So if you want to chat with me and Will, comment, questions, all that, feel free to do that on social media. If you're, adventurous enough to subscribe to the podcast, go ahead. It's mobiletechpodcast.com. There's an RSS feed there and we're on all the major platforms, you know, YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts, everywhere. So please subscribe if you can. And if your app lets you rate or review the show, please consider doing that. There is a YouTube as well. YouTube channel is youtube.com/mobiletechpodcasts. You'll see my hands-on video with the Samsung phones from last week. That's the latest. I do about a video a month. It's, you know, kind of an accessory to the podcast, but you know how YouTube works. So like, subscribe, tell your friends, click the bell, comment, all that good stuff. And then we have a Patreon. I mentioned that a couple of times in the show earlier. You can get this podcast as a video. You can get it every week, a day in advance for $5 a month. And I generally edit it a little less and leave some bloopers in there, some extra content if we go over time. So, you know, if you kind of want to get the full version of the podcast, basically, and you want video, I strongly suggest you check out the video version of the podcast on Patreon, patreon.com/TNKGRL. And finally, I want to thank our sponsor, Mint Mobile. You know I review a lot of phones, so I'm constantly juggling multiple devices. While that's fun, it also means I'm spending a lot of money for wireless service on multiple SIMs. Thankfully, there's Mint Mobile, and that's who I'm teaming up with for today's podcast. If you want to save money on your wireless service, switch to Mint Mobile. You've probably seen the Mint Mobile ads featuring Ryan Reynolds, but let me quickly tell you how fantastic their service is, especially for tech-savvy early adopters like us. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Why should you pay more than you have to for access to the same network? In my experience testing phones, Mint Mobile delivers the same data speeds and call quality as the big three for a fraction of the cost. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to their eSIMs, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. No more standing around waiting in line at a big wireless store. You can keep your current devices and phone number and easily switch services. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM card free of charge. The whole process only takes 15 minutes, and if you get stuck, Mint has a great customer service team to get you through it. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, plus lightning-fast 5G and free mobile hotspot. Mint will show you how much data you use each month and recommend plans that save you money. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Use my link, mintmobile.com/mobiletech to get premium wireless starting at $15 a month. Stop paying more than you need on your wireless bill and start saving big with Mint Mobile. And thanks, Will, for being my guest. I really appreciate it.
Miriam, literally anytime. Anytime you tell me to come on the show, I'm there.
Great. Well, listen, I will have you on the show again, obviously, at some point.
And I'll have you on mine. That's the podcaster's game. We just trade back and forth.
Trade back. That's great. And folks, we'll have a show next week, so stay tuned for that. Until then, cheers, everybody.
This has been the Mobile Tech Podcast with Tank Girl, proudly presented by worldpodcasts.com. You can visit us online at mobiletechpodcast.com.